One of the biggest mistakes people make when they try to set up a convention is they think that they can just do it by chutzpah. They're just convinced that they've got this really cool idea and everybody is just going to go along with it. And then they have to pay for it and they really, really screw up. And this entire video will be about what they're missing, what important thing they're missing. In the last video, we talked about everything that they're willing to do and that they're capable of doing and kind of the kind of setup that they are to do a convention. So now we're going to see what they're going up against. So the first thing you have to realize is it's expensive. The next couple of slides will be about everything you have to pay for, prepare for, and plan for. And it is a lot. This is a empty hall I saw while helping out at another convention, and I thought this would be perfect to show. You basically have an empty hallway, and it's already expensive because you've got to pay for the floor rental. However many square feet you've rented is however many feet you now have to pay for. And you're going to go in and you're going to be like, well, we've got this cool thing and we're going to be amazing. And oh my gosh, everybody's going to love it. And it's just so important. You've got to give us some kind of deal. And oh my gosh, will they smile at you? Will they think you are a sucker? And there's a reason why they have to do this. It's because all the other shows that they do are just as important. This is a picture of the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, and nearby was an expo on teachers and what they were going to be doing for the rest of the year. And this was actually the state teachers meeting. And then next door to that was a Native American association meeting. And they were totally having a big cultural item there. And then next to that was a sales thing where they were talking about jewelry and the jewelry world and, you know, what's going to be coming up into the Christmas era and stuff. And that was really big. And all of them are really big. And all of them think that, you know, this is so important. People are just going to do as I say. And the people at the convention are like, no, we have to be paid. These facilities cost us money. We have people that work for us that, you know, we have to pay. We have all these facilities. You have to pay. We're not going to break you any deals because every meeting is important. So we can't, you know, give you that cool thing just because we agree it is cool, but so is all the other ones. So the floor rental, and we're talking a lot of money here. In some points, I actually tried to look up some numbers, and floor rental alone can cost somewhere around $90,000. That's just before you even go in, you have to pay $90,000. Then you've got tables, chairs, those little things in the background that you see, those you have to rent. Then you have to have tablecloths, and you have to pay for those. And, you know, just thing after thing after thing. And every single item you are paying for. You can't think that, oh, well, you know, it's just this cool thing I'm doing. You can't think that way. You have to look at it and recognize that every single item costs money, and they are willing to give it to you for a price. Then you have power requests, and I really tried to find the best picture of this, but I didn't. Literally, this is just a line of arcade machines, and each one is being powered by one of those plugs that you're looking at. And each one is connected to a circuit, and that circuit has to be able to work for the entire convention. So they've got to put extra power into it. This costs them money. So they're charging you extra for that money, or for that power. So that lane of machines that you're seeing, that is $200-300 a day, easily. And that's because those machines take up so much power. So you have to go, okay, I have to pay for this. And you have to be willing to save up and be willing to pay for that amount. The next up is custodians, and you've probably never even thought about it, but you take in a lot of junk, a lot of crap is going to be thrown around when you're at a convention. Most of the conventions I work at are really clean and pretty, you know, careful with themselves. But I have seen conventions where people were leaving everything. And I mean literally everything. They just went, you know what, it costs too much for us to ship this back. we're just going to leave it. It doesn't cost us anything. And, for me, that was kind of cool because I got some cool free stuff out of it. But it also was kind of shocking to see just the amounts of junk everywhere. And you have to recognize that. To take care of all of that junk, that's a custodian's job. And yeah, he's going to grab some stuff for free, but you know what? That's all going to the trash, and somebody has to do it, and that person has to be paid. The entire place has to be mopped and taken care of for every convention, so you got to pay somebody for that. Next up is promotion, and you probably haven't even thought about it, but that little sign right there, that costs about $20, and they've got multiple signs everywhere for blocks so that people know about this convention going on. And, then you have posters, which I don't have any pictures of, or I don't have a picture for this slide, but you have to pay for posters, and you have to pay the artist for those posters, and you have to pay radio shows to promote your show or promote your convention. Then you have, various flyers to hand out, and all of that costs money. Every poster you make, every bit of promotion you do needs to be paid for. And you haven't even started the show yet, and you've already gotten, several tens of thousands of dollars in debt. And you have to recognize that if you want this show to work, you have to promote. You can't just be like, well, my friends are coming. No, man. This is too expensive for you to just think you're going to get stuff. You need fans. You need people to come and pay for all of this. Next up is shipping. If you think that it's just going to magically appear into your show, you are wrong. Every single item has to be moved in. This means that you have to have shipping lanes, or, you have to arrange for things to be mailed in. You have to arrange for picking up items. This is a truck that is carrying arcade machines. And, that hand truck right there, the hand trucks you're looking at, those cost somewhere between $600 to $800 a piece. And they are lifesavers because of how well they do their job. But you have to buy them. And then when you're taking care of arcade machines, you have to go pick them up, or you have to have somebody come and pick them up, and you have to pay for those machines to be transported over to where you're going, or to where the show is. And you have to be willing to pay for that. That means the car, the driver, the gas, all of it. And you haven't even begun, and you've already got to figure out this shipping. And it's not just shipping in, it's shipping out. And this is probably one of the better docks I've seen. Other docks I've seen, literally you have to use an elevator on the machine or off the truck, and you grab like 2 or 3 arcade machines, you put them on the elevator, you lower the elevator, then you walk the arcade machine over to where it's going. And you have to do this with every single piece of equipment that you're going to work with. You have to plan this out. You have to prepare for this. You have to give, some time for it to all happen. Then there's setup and takedown. Oh, you've already got the items into the show. Well, guess what? Now you have to set it up. And each thing is going to be wrapped because you don't want it to get damaged. So you got to unwrap it. You got to prep it. You got to set it up. I don't have any pictures of the setup for the free play arcade at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, but they are really well planned. Oh, off in the background you see that little area right there. That's actually the first slide room that I took a picture of. And yeah, all of this just takes time. And you know what? You're going to have to either pay somebody to help set it up. And, every little thing you do that you're paying somebody to do is going to cost money. And you can't just be like, well, I can do it all, because there's so much to do. So you can't just think that you can walk away easily from this. And by the way, that topper is a really well set up machine. Then there's security. And I don't have any pictures of security, and I thought it best that I not take a picture of security, though I've gotten to know a lot of the security guys. And at every convention I've been to, there are 2 or 3 different types of security. There's the convention floor security, and they are a different organization than the convention people security. That's the convention grounds security force. And then you have security for basically police and stuff. If somebody is doing something stupid, you grab security, you have them come over, and then you have the police come in. Because the police are the only ones that can actually deal with that. The security can hold the person down, but they cannot do anything else after that. All they can do is keep the person there. And so you have 3 different layers of security, and you have to pay for every single one of them. Yeah, I know. You're just going, wow. And every convention I've been to has had multiple security forces. One is, like I said, the grounds floor. Then there's convention security guys who they literally just sign up and they get a phone call or they see on the website like, oh, hey, this convention is doing this and we need this many hours and, you're going to be paid so much. And they just sign up. They show up in their uniform and they do the security thing. And it's usually something really simple like stand at the front door, and they'll even hand out flyers and stuff. They're really nice people. I enjoy talking to them. But yeah, it is a lot. And it's weird because as soon as I go to the back of the convention, there's a completely different security force and different uniform. And yeah, it gets complex fast, and you're paying for all of this. You cannot think that you aren't going to not get security, though, because it is required by law that you have security there. It is required by law that you have a plan set up for how everything will be set up. All the power requirements, every little bit has been planned before you even set up, so that the convention can know what they have to give you. Then there's stuff to see. And you're thinking, well, I've shipped it all in, I've set it all up. You're right, but you have to keep all that stuff in storage. You have to have this stuff made. See every single little tray there? All of that is kept in storage and was paid for. This is the museum, the Video Game History Museum at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo. And it costs money to take care of. From what I understand, it's about $2,400 a year to take care of just these empty trays. And stuff to see isn't just, displays or arcades. It's tons of stuff. For instance, you need speakers, and each one of those chairs costs money. I know, right? And then you have to set up an audio system, and the convention floor is ready to give you any audio equipment you need. It'll cost you money, though. And if you want a place to kind of stand up above everyone, yep, that's going to cost you money as well. And, there's going to have to be security. And if you want to film it, that means you're going to have to buy a camera. It means you're going to have to figure out how to stream everything. You're going to have to do all this stuff. And yes, every little object, every little thing costs money. That isn't even getting to the speakers themselves. Speakers, the people who give lectures and stuff, they are going to charge you money. And they're going to do even greater than that. They will very likely have demands, like you have to give them a hotel room. You have to give them food. You have to make sure that they are taken care of. You have to make sure that they're given a security force. Yeah, I know. And all of this is already costing you money. You've already got to arrange that hotel room for the guy. You've got to arrange any transportation he asks for. And most definitely you have to pay for food. And that means, even if he comes for a day, that's $1,000 to $2,000 right there, easily. Then you have to pay for breaks. And this is going to sound really weird, but if you try to go all out at a convention and it's 2 or 3 days long, just the convention when it's open, you will actually wear out. And we call it burnout. And I've done it before. And your best option is to go grab food. Just take a moment, walk away, and, let somebody else be in charge. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but it costs money to kind of do that because you have to be willing to pay people to take care of everything while you're gone. And very likely grabbing food for yourself and, maybe playing a game or two. It's a lot of fun. It gives you a nice break. But you need to be willing to pay for that. You know, uh, that sounds weird, but you are the biggest tourist there, and you are in charge. As weird as that sounds. Then you have to put on displays, and these displays are, kind of the crux of the convention. If it's a car show, you're paying to have expensive cars show up so that people can ogle. If you're at an arcade show, you have arcade games there for display. And if you don't own any arcade machines, you have to pay somebody to move their arcade machines there. There are arcade machines for rent, and you can go from, the 1970s Pong machines all the way to modern machines like the Star Wars pod game, which costs somewhere around $30,000. And if you don't own those machines, you can rent them, but it's going to cost, each one of these machines costs somewhere around $100 a day, and we had 200. Now you're starting to go, whoa, wait a minute. 200 machines? Yep. 200 machines, each one $100 a day. Yeah, that's a lot of extra money. And you have to be willing to pay it to get people enticed to kind of be like, oh yeah, we're going to have all these machines and all these games. Oh, you're going to love these displays. They are amazing. And you know what? Everything kind of falls apart. Oh man, that is such a headache. One of the biggest things you got to worry about is making sure the machines are working, and you've got to prepare for that. You've got to buy all the parts that the machine is going to need. You're going to have to buy the equipment to set the machine up. You're going to have to buy the equipment to, figure out what the problem is. At the last show I did, Emerald City Comic Con, I found some really cool devices to help me do that. Bluetooth powered levels. So then I can find out the exact angle my pinball table is set, so then I can balance it perfectly, which I think is really cool. But oh my gosh, man, that is expensive. That's about $50 for that level. And those drills, they cost about $100, and everything in there, I'm gonna say that's a $200 bag. And you'll notice that we have multiple bags, and all that plastic there, that's needed, that costs money. So all of that is costing money because machines will break down, and you're going to need the parts ready for you when it does happen. I was still kind of hungry because I think that was the only food I ate that day. And that was really stupid of me, but that should give you an idea of the level of food you have to buy for everybody who works there, and everybody who is doing stuff will need kind of sustenance. It's not just breaks for you, but breaks for everybody else. So you need snacks, you need a place for them to kind of go to get a kind of a breather, because as cool as your convention is, it will just kind of wear on their minds, and you kind of want to give them breaks and the ability to just relax a little. And all of this costs money. I mean, 40 pizzas, that's about $400 right there. Plus the sodas, we'll add another $100 easily right there. And that was a single meal. And you've got to have snacks and all that stuff. So that just adds to it. You might have a breakfast paid for through the convention. Northwest Pinball and Arcade Show does that. And I think that's somewhere around $5,000. $1,000 to $5,000. I can't remember the exact numbers, but yeah, food. Food is important. And then you have hotels. You thought I was joking when I said there's a lot to think about, but no, there are hotels. Usually the convention is next to a bunch of hotels, and they're willing to give you deals for how much you spend at the convention. The hotel might give you a deal, but it's not going to be an amazing deal. Like, you'll still have hotel rooms that cost $175 a night. And this means everybody who works there needs to get a hotel, because they are going to be basically living at the convention floor. And, a lot of people do pay for themselves, but that doesn't always mean that that's going to happen. So that's $175 per person per night. And let's see now. We'll say 10,000 right there. Just 10,000 to take care of the people working. And yeah, you're starting to kind of see an insanity here. By the way, this is actually Spokane, and it is near the Spokane Convention Center, but I just enjoy this area for the pictures and stuff. I don't go into it very often, though. Then you need staff. You'll notice we have talked about everything, set up, all that stuff, but staff costs money. In Washington State, if you are not a charity, you have to pay your staff minimum wage. When I went to Emerald City Comic Con, every green shirt, they're called green shirts, and all staff kind of wear these bright green shirts, and they were paid $15 an hour. I could have easily paid for my entire trip for myself by just being a volunteer there, by being staff, and they would have hired me, no problems. So this is a small grouping of people talking about staff stuff. And if you really want to know, two of them are majorly in charge. I'm not going to... The guy on the left was... I forget. He was what's called a mini-boss. He was over an area. And the woman in front of you is one of the major volunteer organizers. She practically lives at the show. And she is hoping that the show makes money because otherwise it is going to come out of her pocket. And so every single person there costs money. And I got to tell you that every single person there is also dedicated and an amazing person. But they all cost money. Every one. And every hour they serve. And you'll need them. You'll need that dedicated group. You'll need that good crew. But you'll have to pay them for the hours they work. And there's no way you can get around that. And this will all come out of pocket. Yeah, you might have a lot of people donating money so that you can just kind of pay for it. But I've heard of conventions that try to pay for everything, through loans or just straight out of pocket. And almost every last one of them didn't make a lot of money. I know of a lot of conventions that tried to go big before they really had a foothold, and it made them suffer really badly. I know of conventions that they say they've lasted years, or decades even, but they demand that everybody pays them money to be at this convention, and that's staff. Staff has to pay $150 to be at the convention. If that sounds ridiculous to you, I agree. I completely agree. And that was actually one of the reasons why I didn't go to that convention. Or I helped them set up, and then I left. Because they were going to charge me $150 for being staff there. And I was just like, no. And they were like, well, you're burning bridges with us. And I was like, you are burning bridges with all of the Northwest, because I am going to tell all the other conventions about you. I don't think they realized how insane they were. Well, yeah, they didn't realize how insane they were. But people try to figure out ways to make money, and sometimes it gets rather unscrupulous. I don't know how to say this, but I know of a couple conventions. Notice how I'm not naming names here, that are very likely money laundering schemes. And there's always a question of, did this convention actually make money, or are they just lying to us so that nobody knows how much they actually spent and nobody knows how much they actually made. But yeah, it just gets insane. At all the numbers I gave you, that's almost the cost of a house. $100,000 easily for a convention. But there are ways to save money. You can have volunteers. Yes, this volunteer is paid for his time at the show. He is paid $15 an hour, and he is literally being paid to just stand there. But that's an important thing that he's doing. And then, but other parts of the show have volunteers who are not being paid. They're just being paid, or, they're just being taken care of, and, give them some food and some space, and they're good. Like I was at the same show, the Emerald City Comic Con, and I was not being paid. And I was like, kind of wish I was paid. But, not every single person there working was being paid or, getting all the hotel rooms and stuff like that. They could be taken care of and it was much cheaper. So volunteers really help you out, but you have to prove that you're not doing this for profit. Like the Northwest Pinball and Arcade Show are a nonprofit. The Seattle Retro Gaming Expo is a nonprofit. The Portland Retro Gaming Expo, I believe, is a nonprofit as well, which is making me ask questions in my mind, but I'm not going to ask them out loud. Uh, but because of that, they can have volunteers, and these volunteers donate their time, and you kind of reward them with a T-shirt, like that, and you get food and kind of a break lounge for those volunteers so that they can keep sane. And then you can have your own supply. You don't need to rent somebody else's machines. And not only that, if you have the right connections, you don't have to just use your stuff. You can have all of your connections donate some machines or some displays and stuff for your show. You don't have to let the convention put on tablecloths. You can bring your own. The Portland Retro Gaming Expo actually does that. You don't need tables. You can provide your own tables. I don't know why you'd do that, but you can. You can provide your own TVs. You can provide your own things. They're still going to demand that you demonstrate how everything works to one of their AV guys so that it meets all their requirements. And that will cost you some money, but it's going to cost you a lot less if you use your own equipment than theirs. So all the any equipment you already own is a lot cheaper than renting the conventions, but you just have to keep it in storage, keep it in use, and stuff like that. Like the Seattle Retro Gaming Expo has a storage locker, not a storage locker, a storage room, a vast supply of stuff, just for the free play arcade and stuff. And then they got people to donate arcade machines for one area. And then they had one area that was indie game guys that they just put on their own display. And so we didn't have to pay for any of that. And you don't have to have big, expensive speakers either. If you have the right connections, you can bring in friends. You can bring in people that are already into the show, so it would be cheap. So you just give them kind of a free ticket and, maybe some deals and stuff, and they are way cheaper. They'll take care of themselves so long as they, speak at the panel. And, that's way, way, way cheaper. The two people you're seeing right there are local artists, and they're just discussing how to sell art in Seattle. And you'll notice the room is full. And that's all anybody really wants to hear is, people talking about video games or people talking about the subject you're talking about or that the convention is about. So, you can bring in your connections that are, providing all these other things. They can also be wonderful speakers. At the Northwest Pinball and Arcade Show, Friday, pretty much all the speakers are people that fix machines. And you know what? They happen to be volunteers at the show anyway, who donate a ton of time to be there. So they have displays, they do everything, and for them, that's really cool. Finally, you can get vendors, and vendors are pretty much a must if you want to make a profit. And what you do is you promise that you believe this many people will come and they will bring that much supply to the show, but they will pay for their own area. So if you have, I'll say 10 by 5 feet, that 10 by 5 feet will cost $150. Some people rent out, table size. Some people rent out by space. It depends on the convention, but they will just be like, oh, we'll rent you this space, and it'll cost you $150, and that's it. So the person is hoping to make $150 worth of sales. And if they're donating games and stuff, you'll probably, or the guy you're looking at also donated arcade equipment and other stuff. So he was given a deal. He's actually one of the people who helped fund the show. So he was given a lot more space because, hey, it's his money. And on the other hand, the indie game guys, they have their own display. We just put on cloth or covers for the tables. The chairs were provided by the convention, as were the tables. And, all that was put on display by the indie guys themselves. And I don't know if they paid or not to be there, but they probably did, but a very small amount. And so each vendor is paying, a substantial or a small sum to them, but it adds up to the point that it actually pays for most of the rental at the show. And, sorry. Another thing I didn't show really well is that you don't have to go to the giant floor off the bat. One of the mistakes everybody makes is they think they have to be big to be big. Another thing you can think about is you don't need a giant floor to have a convention. You can have a much smaller area. A lot of these shows started in like a single hotel room, 20 by 30 feet. And that cost them all of, $5,000. And they just needed so many ticket sales to break even. And if most of that room was vendors, it cost them, $2,000 really. And they only need to bring in so much supply to show off. And, the speaker can just kind of be there just to discuss stuff with people. And that is way cheaper for everyone involved. So because of that, you start small and you actually start at, you say that instead of this is our budget, you say this is our budget and then we have this buffer here. So instead of saying we're going to spend $5,000, you say our budget is $2,000, but we've got a $3,000 buffer just in case. And usually those kinds of shows do well. The trick is they do well enough that everything gets paid for, and that payment pays more than, their budget and whatever buffer they had put in. And because of that, they're good. They have everything paid for so that the next show they can have a slightly larger budget. This show we're going to spend $3,000 instead of $2,000. And we have a buffer of $3,000. And then the next year, you know what? We're going to go a little bit high. We're going to go $5,000. $5,000 is totally doable. You have a $4,000 buffer, and you've already got a bunch of stuff ready and prepared, and the vendors have already donated time and stuff, so you don't need to worry about it as much. So long as you got all of the plans shown, you're pretty good. So the next article, the next video we're going to talk about is planning, how to figure out how to do a show like this. And from there, I'm going to discuss, the planning meetings and the various things that they have to figure out, and we'll go from there. Next week we will talk about just basically setup, shipping, setting up, and all of that. And that will take us an entire week. Oh. Hi, Haley. I'm just going to keep that one in. And we'll go from there. So, catch you all later. Bye now.